Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Syntegrator, and we are back at the workshop. So let's open up the beautiful synth, which we have, of course, this has been reconditioned, and this has been reconditioned. The panel board has been reconditioned. It's still waiting for its neoprene. And now we're turning our attention to this bender block with its missing slider, and of course the fact that it also is going to need new neoprene as well. You'll see. But first I have to cut this plasto strap using my cutters. That's right. A plasto strap. Sure, that's what they're called, isn't it? Alright, and we'll just cut that plasto strap and get it out of there. I didn't quite cut it. Gotta be careful. You don't want to be harming these precious cables. Precious cables. Okay, one plasto strap cut off. Right, so having got that out, I can now just simply remove this, and guess what? I'm gonked. That's another one of my words. Yeah, I'm afraid I am gonked. I'm going to have to go all the way over here, because you see this is actually soldered in as opposed to it being a detachable socket. So I got to go over here and unplug this guy, go back over here, and as you can see, it's the first one and the one on the bottom. Alright, good. So now it's a matter of removing, basically, there's some bolts on the bottom that need to get undone. And I'm just going to pull it out here. Let's go down and have a look, shall we? Ooh, underneath. Can you see? Probably not. Alright, let's not go underneath. Close this like this. Gently lift this into a vertical position. Sorry. There we go. Don't worry, we're trained professionals here. And here we have a bolt like this and a bolt like this. And then there's a large bolt here for the key bed. Okay. And on the inside we have two bolts, one here and one here. I'm just going to start by removing these two bolts here, and I think that should clear it out. We'll see. Be right back. And we got those two brass bolts out, and really that was all there was to it, and the whole thing came out, so there was no need to worry about anything holding it from the bottom. That was an old memory of mine from working on the Chroma Polaris. Which incidentally does have a bender block that is bolted underneath. See, here's my Chroma Polaris. Ooh, pretty. Yeah, it's an awesome synth. Okay, and if you're interested in that, just go check out the other playlist in which I basically reconditioned it. It was already a pretty good condition, so that was an easy gig, although it was very time consuming. Okay, so anyway, I got this clear, and now really what I want to do, let's get these knobs off. And then the two fader caps that we actually have to work with. And then just from underneath, have a look here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts holding the PCB in, and then there is 2 bolts holding the entire bender mechanism in place. So I'm going to undo all 6 of those, and we'll be right back. Okay, so it looks like I missed 2. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the PCB, and then 7, 8 on the bender itself. So my mistake. Let's put those in here. Basically the same screw. Although you may notice that two of them are shinier or slightly longer or have a slightly different pitch. And then those will be the ones that go to the bender block. Okay, so don't mind me. This one-handed stuff always makes me a little clumsy. Okay, that's in there. And here is, yeah, so it's missing a slider. The slider head's been broken off. There is a slight possibility this could actually be brought back as a salvage. Other than that, it looks alright inside. And let me just put this over here so you can have a look. Here is our aged neoprene, and the neoprene's actually held up alright, but that's only because nobody like me has gone in and tried peeling it out. Oh look, oh darn, I broke it. And of course that's because it is hardened into a ossified mess. We don't like that. So, we need to replace it, obviously, as I said. Into the garbage with you, my friend. Okay, so next up, we'll put this off to the side and let's go do some neoprene. Here we are over at the work center where I generally will do fabric and plastics and paper cutting. So I've got my self-healing table and I've got a steel angle brace drywall square, and basically it's laid down on top of this piece of neoprene I have, and I'm just going to show you over here. This is the pattern. This is the pattern for neoprene covers for the Juno-106 that I did, and if you need a copy of it, I'm sure I can arrange you to get the PDF. And basically the strips, here's a paper pattern right here, are just under 2 inches in height, as you can see, 2 inches in height. So I just have to cut a 2-inch strip here of the neoprene to start with, and that will give me my basic stock. So I'm just going to lean down on this, and I'm using a rotary cutter because that's the only way to cut this stuff, well, short of using a punch or a die cut. Get this wrong and you've wasted a lot of neoprene. Okay, there we go. That's looks like I didn't get it wrong. Nope, there we are. One lovely strip of 2-inch thick neoprene. Well, thereabouts, within certain tolerances. It's kind of woven in at a couple of locations, which is unfortunate. But then again, here's the most narrow that it gets, and okay, it's a little... No, actually, I think that probably any neoprene pieces that I cut from this will actually work no matter what. So, basically now we just have to take a look at what the inventory is. And we've got 2 that are basically 2 each. Then there's this one big block, which has the 2 on either side, and then the one right in the middle. There's one of 3. And then there is one that is basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's essentially 1 off to the side, followed by 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll probably recognize these off the panel if you saw them, but we don't have to worry about that right now. Right now all we need to do is just cut these. And then over here, this one here with a little loop, there are 2 of them on this pattern, but you only need 1 of them. This is for the bender block. So what I'm going to do at this point is I am going to sit down and cut myself some neoprene, and we'll just see if I can do that without making any mistakes. It is an exacting business, I'll tell you that. Alright, let's go. Okay, so hey, here we are back, and basically I have cut the neoprene that I needed, and it's not bad, not perfect, but it's not bad. This little divot down here, I basically just made 2 notches in this one, and again, these guys are probably not the full, because I'm using this rotary cutter, and it's fantastic for a nice sharp bead, sharp line, but at the same time it doesn't exactly stop on a dime when I get to the corners. So generally what I will do is I will detail these with a fine X-Acto afterwards, just to make sure they're the right height. But that's very, very painstaking work, and I'm going to do that one off camera, because quite literally it takes a while, and you wouldn't really pick up much other than to know that I take a sharp knife and I go in and ensure that these guys are all regulation widths from the paper pattern that I'm using. And so I basically have all of the pieces done, and if you may have seen during the video, this one here, actually I had to cut this one out of my paper pattern here. And when I did that, I actually cut the individual slots on both sides to leave a wider slot, so that I was able to run the rotary blade through it like that without it catching or binding on the paper. That's the reason why I did that ahead of time. And as you can see, I got very nice, straight, clean cuts otherwise inside. So that's kind of really what it's all about now. So I basically have an entire set of neoprenes now for Dave's Juno-106 front panel. All I got to do at this point is ensure that everything is at the regulation height, and it's fairly close anyway. And I'm going to get the board out, and then we got to just sort of test to make sure everything works from there. So we'll be back in just a bit. Okay, so here's the board, and basically what I'm doing now is I'm taking these pieces that I've cut, and I'm ensuring, again, we don't know if these slots are long enough. It's better to err on the side of the slots being smaller than bigger, obviously. So wherever there is a need for a 2 slot, for example, here's the 2 slot right here, basically the test that I would use is to see if I can go maximum sweep. Can I go maximum sweep without the neoprene distorting? And in this case I certainly can, so that's actually good enough. So just put them at max like that, and then over here, for example, in this 3 cluster, I have these 2 in the corners up to their top and the one on the bottom to its minimum, and there's no distortion there. So I'm going to take it over the other way just to compare, and yeah, it's fine. As long as it's glued down, well, it'll all be good. So this is basically the fine-tuning procedure that I do after I've got these neoprene covers cut. And here's the other 2. It's right over here. Yeah, that's good too. Right on. And so that's the 2 dealt with, and then this is the 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the 1 by itself, which is over here. As you can see, the patterns definitely work. This isn't the first synth that I've reconditioned with these patterns, of course, so I'm fairly confident about them, obviously. Okay, pull that down like that, and then up to the top, that's fine, and up to the top. Oop, a little bit of tugging. A little bit of tugging on this one. This guy needs a little bit of an extension. Just there, so I'm just going to take this off. Put this down, so I can get this into view. Right. Get my little rotary cutter. Put it down in the slot, and then ever so gently push up, which will increase the slot just a tiny little bit. And You got to be really careful with this, obviously, because if you do it too much, then you cut the neoprene all the way up to the top, and that's not good. You don't want that to happen. All right. A little piece of paper stuck in it. Okay. I'm sorry, you probably couldn't see that. Here's at the top, down to the bottom, at the top. Yeah, that's certainly acceptable. Okay, so then we're just here in the middle, and the middle has the one that has 5 slots. So it's riding a little bit low. I'm going to try it the other way around. That's better. Okay. Let's see how this goes. Looks like, yeah. These two here on this side need to be a little bit longer, but the other 3 are fine. So I'm just going to flip this up like this. So it's these two right here. Down a little bit. These two right here that need extension. So again with the rotary, just a little bit. Okay. And then flip it around once again. I've got to move the camera up again. Huh. If only I could afford a cameraman. Well, I can't see this going on cable TV, I'm afraid. This old synth. Okay. You know what? Still not enough. It needs a bit more. Yeah, I think it's this one here that's the real culprit. Okay, that's been extended quite a bit now. Painstaking work, my friends. Painstaking. But that's the only kind of work that's worth it, in my view. Alright. There we are. Okay, good stuff. Now, you may be asking, okay, that's fine, so that is the main panel board. Now, we're not going to obviously just leave them like this. We're gonna glue them down, just like the originals were. But over here, we've got one more dust cover to worry about, and that's the one that actually goes on the bender block. And of course, with Dave's unit, we're missing the strut. You could actually use your finger or a pin or something to move that. But anyway, let's see what we can do. I've got a stand-in. Here's the stand-in board, just for the test fitting side of things. And here is the slider piece. And oh yeah, this part here, I can't cut it with a rotary, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it like this, and I'm going to use these little snippy scissors here that are basically used for sewing. And in case you couldn't tell, and that's what this area is really for, is for sewing. Sewing is very, very useful when you want to build things. And yes, it's very manly, sewing is, so don't you say it isn't. I'll come over there and kick your teeth in. Okay. Uh-oh. I'm going to get in trouble with the Scots. Are you implying that the Scots are all people who knit and sew? Are you? Well, yeah, I might be, because you know what? Now I think about it, how else are you going to get a kilt? You see how much sewing is involved in a kilt? It's insane, the number of stitches. And the amount of material, too, just as an aside here. A kilt literally has enough material to create several suits, all folded over itself. If you ever get a chance, check it out. And that's one of the reasons why Scotsmen are never cold when they wear their kilt. Okay. And that Billy Connolly moment was brought to you by who isn't actually a real Scot. I don't know. I think he's Northern England, actually. Okay, there we go. So, let's see. I'm getting in trouble all the time here with comments like this. I don't have the bender block handy, do I? I thought I brought it over, but I didn't. The bender block is essential because the bender block is actually where this gets glued in. This is glued into the bender block, not into the, not on top of the sliders. But, okay, so it's, anyway, this is a fairly grody set of sliders. They're definitely going to need to be reconditioned, but they're serving the purpose, and that is they're proving to me that these guys are actually the right slot length for the job at hand. So I don't have to adjust these anymore. I just can glue them right in. So we got to do some gluing. So that's up next.